we believed in the power of bringing a community together when you asked the question, what do you think it will take to create conditions that will assure that all kids thrive? We believed in the power of the diversity of thought coming together to sort through the common good.
The idea of having the whole community come together and talk about something that matters to everybody was just fascinating to me.
I saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have some real development in a communication.
Of course, we all know that the only way that you can truly believe and live the goals is if you are a part of the creation and understanding of the goals.
And that's the best part about it. It wasn't walking in with, here's our plan and we're presenting it. It was walking in with, what do we need to do? Tell us.
When more than 1,200 people from the Mead School District gathered for an education summit in Spokane, Washington in the fall of 1999, they assigned themselves an ambitious agenda: to examine the world in which they lived, to plan a future where all their children and community would thrive, and to commit their time, energy, and resources to make it happen. Their goal? To create a new set of guiding principles for the district, but not to do it in the usual way.
A difficulty we encounter with a lot of strategic planning is that it's largely an analytical process, that we may involve input from people, but there's some smaller core group that is taking this input, analyzing it, and segregating it into different partitions.
Instead of following a process in which core groups might filter the information or direct the outcomes, the Mead community chose a more radical model, something known as the whole-scale method. Developed by Kathy Dannemiller, the whole-scale method is designed to create fundamental changes in the way a company or an organization works, by acknowledging the problems that exist and by finding ways to engage the power of human yearning.
So first we need to build a critical mass of the system connected around a common picture of all of our dissatisfactions. Then the formula says times V, which stands for a positive, ennobling vision of what we yearn to be.
The first step in reaching the critical mass is to begin to process information in a different way.
We're normally trained to listen to evaluate of someone's content or the way they speak. What we would like for you to do is not evaluate, not to decide whether you agree or disagree, not to focus on whether the speaker is right or wrong. We'd like for you simply to see the world through the eyes of the person who's speaking.
The first people to speak were students. Working with Spokane's public television station, they produced a video to present their thoughts.
We begin with so much hope, so many dreams of what we can become.
Policeman. A veterinarian. I want to be a doctor.
But what happens to those dreams? What keeps them from fading as the years go by?
From the students, the focus shifted to leaders from the adult community they would soon join.
We have a tremendous interest in what you're doing today, and we applaud you for it.
And to teachers who would try to help connect them to their dreams.
And of course, the emphasis has to be back on learning, not just teaching. I used to think, I taught a great lesson. I taught this lesson just great. And if they didn't get it, too bad. That's their fault, not mine. That's wrong. I was wrong. It's wrong. If they didn't get it, I need to do something different.
It was very short bursts of presentations, but after they would report, then people at the table would talk to one another and answer the question, what did we hear? And what questions do we have? And so then people were asked to come up to mics and ask questions of clarification, not questions to debate.
If the technology is tools of the future, we can't let any student be without access to that, or they're cooked.
After the broad brushstrokes of the opening presentations, the focus shifted to the groups at their tables. One of the secrets of the whole-scale method is to manage the seating assignments to make sure each table has representatives from most or all of the constituent groups. As work began at the individual tables, the focus again became to try to see the world through the eyes of the other participants.
I mean, that's the most important thing. What connects people will be sitting down with a person and beginning their story and sharing something and finding the commonalities and finding the different views and finding the reasons why.
Well, everyone introduced themselves, really got comfortable talking, and everyone shared.
I think that people felt that their ideas were really being heard, and they liked that. And they felt like if we have input, people want to know what our thoughts are, and we can make a difference.
We even tell them, we want you to really self-regulate. If you need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Just please don't take that time to make phone calls or associate with other people, because your table misses your wisdom. And when you tell someone that their table is going to miss their wisdom, sometimes that's the very first time anyone has told some of these individuals in that room that they actually have wisdom. We assume they're wise, and we treat them that way.
My daughter attended the summit, and to watch her sitting there and have 10 or 15 administrators, parents, bus drivers, for her to be able to sit there and express her feelings and know that she was being heard was really incredible.
And sometimes it was even difficult to hear what they were saying, especially some of the things about teachers. But again, we needed to hear that, and it was real, and I appreciated their point of view.
That early communication through stories helped set the stage for the next phases of work.
And the development of shared stories leads to a sense of shared meaning.
And when that connection begins to take place, people begin to see something larger than the view that they had already seen.
Well, I think sometimes we tend to know what our problems are, what I need as a teacher, what I need in the classroom, what I need for my kids. And it began to be clear that it was bigger than that.
And so we start communicating more on an even basis rather than a blue-collar worker and a white-collar worker.
You could actually get your opinions out there, your voice. You could listen to other people's ideas, share thoughts, concerns.
And then this large group, 1,300 people, can begin to act in concert in doing planning.
We went up and we posted this is what this group said, and this is what we feel is important to our school district. And we kind of pinpointed some key values down that were almost unanimous throughout the whole group.
After the output of each table's work was posted on the walls, people studied the results and voted. A gold star for high priorities, a red dot for things that should stay on the back burner. The strategy is much more subtle than a simple vote.
So I may have said I wanted to read this way, or I wanted the concept to be such and such. Well, after I've gotten up and I've spent a half an hour reading all of these other people's words, maybe that's not exactly what I want. And maybe I really like what this person said better than mine. But inside is where I make that decision. It's not something that someone browbeat me into doing.
We could see unique ideas kind of having pockets of ideas. So it wasn't just one person's thinking, it was a person across the room and a person at the table next to you all thinking the same thing, and the power of having that all put on the wall as unique ideas was really neat, I thought.
At the end of the first day of the summit, a team gathered to face a daunting challenge: to summarize the day's output for presentation to the group the following day.
That was a highlight for me because I could see what all the people had to say and what all the groups wanted represented. And then the huge job of trying to categorize that. And that was just awesome to be able to experience that and be a part of that.
When people came back the next morning, it was typed up and placed in front of their seats so that when they got there, they were able to read this and go, oh my goodness, for once, somebody listened to me. And here are some of the words I wanted.
So it felt really good when we came back the next day and said, this is what we think you said, did we get it?
Did we get it?
And we had this applause, this huge applause. And so we knew we were on the right track.
I don't know how the group took the reams of information and ideas and solutions to things, synthesized that down into revising 3 guiding principles to 3 new guiding principles that weren't on paper much different, but we're very different in practice. And there's ownership to those. To me, that was pretty significant.
With the new guiding principles in hand, the group prepared to move from ideas to actions, a process that brought with it a certain amount of intimidation.
When you hold a meeting like this, your credibility is at stake because you're making these public pronouncements that we're going to act on what you say.
In order to live up to the promise of the summit, the second day's strategy was different.
So while a large amount of time the first day was spent building this common knowledge, building the set of connections and relationships, the balance of the second day was spent moving to action.
Asking people to focus on results, not what you're going to do, but what will it look like once you've done whatever it is. You know, begin with the end in mind.
People were grouped according to building units, and in buildings they got together and asked the question, what do we want to see in our school in 2 years? And as they worked on that, it was then taken through a series of processes where they then worked it down and said, now what will we start doing Monday? And they set several very specific targets for action items in their buildings. So the day one, back to school, people were moving in action to implement this.
Beyond the actions begun that Monday, the impact of the summit can best be felt in the ideas, the emotions, and the transformations that still resonate with those who were there.
For me, diversity has been always a big issue. To see it just come up all over the place, and it wasn't just coming out of my voice. You know, I'm not the only advocate for it. It was coming from the community, and it was coming from other teachers and EAs and bus drivers and custodians, and so it was nice to see that.
I think one of the things that probably touched almost all of us, and definitely me, was a woman by the name of Debbie Druin who spoke about the need for what she referred to as an ICU for kids.
Most of all, I yearn for an intensive care unit for our Mead children who, for whatever reason or circumstance, come to my classroom unable to read.
She spoke about her mother who had recently died, but when she was very sick went to ICU. You know, there was doctors surrounding her, nurses surrounding her. There was everybody there to try to help her to become better and to fix her problems. And she related that to kids. Why don't we do that with kids? Kids who are struggling, kids who are falling through the cracks.
And there was one main thing that I stated at the summit that that really sticks in my mind is that we're all essential to learning. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here.
We represent a variety of people like maintenance, custodians, drivers, and secretaries, administrators, people that don't come into direct contact with students. We agree to respect the roles and occupations of each person in the district, and from this time forward, the words "I'm just a" will be forever stricken from our vocabulary.
That was huge to me because I'm a mom and sometimes I'm a justa, you know, and yet, do I really believe that? No. I believe what I'm doing is going to make a huge difference.
When it comes down to it, we've got to focus on maintaining our relationships. And when we do that, and we can make ourselves vulnerable to the legitimacy of someone else's opinion, we're truly going to grow and learn, and we're going to come out with some solutions.
We're not defining it, making it up, reacting to a smaller group of individuals who come in based out of self-interest. We're literally saying, no, this is what we said collectively as a community, and this is where we're going.
It was an amazing process. It really was.